A child misses a developmental milestone, or perhaps they develop an unexplained tremor. Parents schedule a doctor's appointment, expecting a quick test and a standard prescription. Instead, they step into a medical maze where the signposts are blank. What follows is an exhausting process known as the diagnostic odyssey. For years, families are bounced from one specialist to another. They endure dozens of inconclusive tests, desperately trying to put a specific name to a cluster of varied symptoms. Eventually, some families do get an answer. It is a moment of immense paradoxical relief. They finally have a diagnosis for a specific genetic condition, only to realize that modern medicine knows almost nothing about it. For the individual patient, facing a rare disease is an incredibly solitary experience. It feels exactly like being stranded on an island without a map, completely cut off from the rest of the world. Zoom out from the individual hospital room, and the medical landscape looks entirely different. It is so globally fragmented that international health organizations cannot even agree on how to define what a rare disease actually is. This grid breaks down the conflicting mathematics. The European Union sets the threshold at fewer than 5 cases per 10,000 people. The United States defines it with a hard cap of 200,000 total citizens. Meanwhile, the World Health Organization uses a metric of 1 in 1,000. Looking at these clusters reveals a strange paradox. Individually, the 7,000 to 8,000 known rare diseases are incredibly scarce. But when you aggregate them, the total number of affected people is massive. We are looking at 30 million people in the United States, another 30 million in the European Union, and 100 million in India. Further data reveals that 80% of these total cases are genetic, and 75% affect children. These individual stories aggregate into a global demographic of hundreds of millions, transforming an isolated medical struggle into a collective international crisis. Recognizing this massive population is only the first step. The harsh scientific reality is that out of all these identified conditions, only about 5% have approved medical treatments. We are talking about severe, life-altering conditions: Gaucher disease, Fabry disease, Duchenne Muscular Dystrophy. For the vast majority of these patients, the pharmacy shelves are completely empty. The primary bottleneck here is logistics. The traditional medical research model relies on gathering large, localized patient groups. With highly scattered populations, that system collapses entirely. Researchers face immense hurdles. They must find enough eligible patients who happen to be in similar stages of the exact same disease. They have to bridge vast geographic distances, and they have to accommodate patients whose physical impairments make travel impossible. You cannot force a highly dispersed genetic condition into a localized clinical trial structure. The standard framework simply fails. To fix this unprofitable, broken system, regulatory bodies like the US FDA and India's CDSCO had to step in. They realized that without serious intervention, pharmaceutical companies would never recoup the massive costs of developing specialized therapies. Their solution was a regulatory pathway called Orphan drug designation. It offers specific, powerful incentives: tax credits for conducting clinical trials, waivers for expensive clinical fees, and a vital 7-year window of exclusive market access. Those targeted incentives worked. By mitigating the immense financial risk, regulators successfully redirected pharmaceutical capital into a booming market for niche therapies. Looking at this Evaluate Pharma forecast for the global prescription drug market to 2030, the financial shift is clear. By the end of the decade, the market hits $1.6 trillion, and orphan drugs surge to make up a full fifth of that total. Regulatory foresight turned a neglected medical dead end into a highly funded central pillar of global pharmaceutical strategy. We now have the financial engine and the regulatory pathways. The next step is bridging the physical gap between these isolated patients and the newly funded clinical trials. This requires pulling vast amounts of hidden data to the surface. By pooling electronic medical records and massive genomic datasets, researchers can locate invisible patients scattered throughout the healthcare system. AI algorithms are accelerating this through digital phenotyping. They scan global medical records, analyzing complex symptom patterns to identify and diagnose children much earlier. Aggregating these records enables scientists to trace common genetic signatures across continents, turning millions of scattered data points into a single, actionable research map. But the best technology in the world falls short without a shift in global healthcare policy. True progress requires international data sharing and unified patient registries. Regional silos must be torn down. Because these conditions are so mathematically scarce, absolutely no single country possesses the necessary population data to solve these diseases alone. We are already seeing the results of a collaborative approach. With recent FDA approvals of advanced gene therapies, the medical goal is actively shifting from managing symptoms to engineering definitive cures. The parents starting a diagnostic journey today enter a system linked by global data networks and borderless science. Because of these connections, having a rare disease no longer means fighting in the dark. Rare does not mean alone.